741 is called the devil's interval in musicology. That when you play 741 with 528, it creates such an annoying and dissonant energy, diseasing, stressful, that if you continue to listen to it, you could die. In the world today, we have people who are controlling virtually everything economically, geopolitically. They have held the secret knowledge, the ancient music, by which the pyramids were constructed based on the math. All of the universe is constructed according to these 9 tones. They knew about them. In fact, it was the Rockefeller Foundation in 1939 that instituted the world's standard tuning. The Western world tunes to a 440 hertz frequency. That when you tune your instrument to that, the F sharp note is 741. Precisely.
There are people who wonder why humanity, despite being advanced in technology and knowledge, seems to be getting more and more anxious, depressed, and disconnected. Some researchers suggest that subtle factors connected to vibration, frequency, and energy may play a crucial role in this scenario. The main hypothesis says that modern society has drifted away from an original harmonic state, one that was in tune with certain numbers and sounds that various cultures once viewed as sacred. Numerologists, physicists, and mystics often agree that mathematics goes beyond abstract equations and directly affects how people perceive and engage with reality. In this setting, 3 specific numbers, 3, 6, and 9, are frequently highlighted as the pillars of a broader vibrational matrix, involving not only the structure of the universe, but also emotions, health, and social dynamics. Nikola Tesla, a visionary inventor and researcher, supposedly stated that grasping the magnificence of these numbers could lead to an unprecedented command of cosmic laws. From there, speculation about historical manipulations and hidden interests arose. Some theorists suggest that at some point in the 20th century, a decision was made to switch the musical tuning standard from 432 Hz to 440 Hz as part of a plan for mental and spiritual control. Others, however, say these adjustments were justified by practical and commercial reasons, or by the attempt to streamline musical performances in different countries. At the same time, the idea persists that water, as the main component of the human body, would serve as a receiver for these frequencies, recording vibrations that shape both physical and psychological health. So, is it only a coincidence that ancestral traditions placed such high value on sound rituals and on the symbolic use of water in ceremonies? Or is there a more intricate design that can be uncovered through thorough investigation? There are records showing that ancient civilizations, many of them apparently without direct contact, already placed great importance on sound frequencies and numerical patterns. In Egyptian, Sumerian, and even Far Eastern cultures, you can see recurring structures based on supposedly divine proportions. These groups developed musical practices, ritual chanting, and architectural monuments that, according to various studies, followed specific mathematical coordinates. Even today, archaeologists and historians debate whether constructions such as the Giza pyramids or Hindu temples were designed according to vibrational principles capable of resonating with the environment and the human body. Pythagorean mathematics comes into the picture here as a milestone in the understanding that number is not limited to calculation, but reflects universal harmony. According to historical accounts, Pythagoras believed that everything in existence could be reduced to numerical vibrations, suggesting that music was a pathway to the cosmic essence. In texts credited to his disciples, there are mentions of the power of musical intervals, as though they could align the soul and body with a natural flow. This view would eventually be echoed by Plato, who wrote about the music of the spheres, arguing that planets and stars each emit their own distinct frequency. However, it is inaudible, forming a kind of celestial symphony. In that same spirit, Hermetic writings refer to Hermes Trismegistus, a legendary figure linked to the Emerald Tablets, where the principle, as above, so below, is written. Repeated by medieval alchemists, that axiom suggests that everything in the human microcosm is a reflection of the celestial macrocosm. Many interpreters connect this statement to the Pythagorean ideas, pointing out that the body, mostly made of water, would respond to vibrational impulses coming from the universe. From that, people propose that health, spirituality, and even social structures would be affected by sound patterns. In the early 20th century, Nikola Tesla expanded on these ideas by presenting theories on electricity and magnetism that went well beyond the conventional technology of his time. Sources say that Tesla frequently talked about the numbers 3, 6, and 9 as the keys to decoding the universal language that underlies every natural event. There is no absolute agreement on what Tesla meant. Still, a lot of alternative researchers believe he was suggesting that reality is essentially vibrational and that small adjustments in certain frequencies could create huge effects, both in new inventions and in everyday human life. Meanwhile, the question remains, if modern society appears to be more and more anxious and disconnected, does that have anything to do with how music and sound have been standardized? Why were ancestral cultures so stubborn about keeping specific sound-based practices, using mantras, chants, or modal intervals? Researchers such as musicologist Murray Barber have looked into the history of Western tuning, showing that standards like 432 Hz were fairly common in different places before 440 Hz was finally adopted. However, that adoption did not happen without disagreement or controversy. This fuels conspiracy theories suggesting that hidden interests pushed global standardization in order to affect people's psycho-emotional states. Whatever the reason, the fact is that uniform frequencies have changed the way music is created and consumed. Many people attribute actual effects to this choice, arguing that a supposedly natural frequency such as 432 Hz is more in sync with Pythagorean proportions and therefore with human well-being. So, could it be that part of today's widespread disconnect comes from a simple change in the tuning standard? Or is it just a fluke with no provable basis? In many ancient texts, numbers are seen as creative forces that can shape both the physical and spiritual realms. Different mystical traditions, such as the Jewish Kabbalah and Hermeticism, take into account the numerical value of letters and the interaction between words and vibrations. In Kabbalah, for example, every Hebrew letter has a numerical weight, and specific combinations can generate symbolic formulas linked to creation and manifestation. Among popular beliefs, this idea became stronger with interpretations tying these combinations to biblical passages that speak about the Word as the starting point of everything. For instance, many people connect it with references like John chapter 1 verse 1, which talks about, "In the beginning was the Word." The numbers 3, 6, and 9 get special attention in this context. Nikola Tesla supposedly stated that whoever figured out the magnificence of these digits would gain the key to the universe. Even though there are no official documents with that exact quote, plenty of alternative researchers repeat it in lectures and publications, viewing it as a call to explore vibrational patterns. The idea is that adding or multiplying 3, 6, and 9 almost always circles back to cyclical outcomes in the decimal system, as if there were an endless loop hidden there. In numerology, 3 symbolizes creativity, communication, and growth, 6 relates to harmony and caring, and 9 closes out cycles, pointing toward renewal. Modern scholars such as engineer Marco Rodin introduced the concept of the Rodin coil, arguing that its design is based on energy vortices anchored in 3, 6, and 9, paving the way for applications ranging from power generation to vibrational healing. Others, like Randy Powell, build on that research, believing these patterns have scientific implications that the academic community still does not fully grasp, although plenty of experts remain skeptical. This example shows how theories orbiting the numbers 3, 6, and 9 are not limited to the distant past, but echo in today's high-tech proposals. On top of that, the number 3 shows up in a bunch of religious ideas. You see the Holy Trinity in Christianity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the alchemical trio, sulfur, salt, and mercury, and the 3 gunas in Hinduism, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. In almost all these traditions, there is the notion that the Trinity is not just doctrine, but a fundamental structure woven into creation. The theory that 3 is the source of manifestation also appears in the view that the material world comes into being through the interplay of opposing forces, which then generate a third mediating element. The number 6, on the other hand, is everywhere in nature, like in honeycomb cells created by bees or ice crystals, always in a hexagonal shape. This pattern points to serious stability and efficiency. In sacred geometry, the hexagon is often named as a fundamental shape of harmony, reinforcing the notion that nature arranges itself according to numerical and vibrational laws. Number 9 is seen as the peak and the start of something new because, in a base 10 system, it represents the end of one cycle before returning to 0. From a symbolic point of view, these properties come together to form a vibrational web that sustains everything, including human consciousness. Putting all this together, you get the hypothesis that sacred mathematics, especially the numbers 3, 6, and 9, form a kind of central code capable of translating the language of the universe. For belief systems that endorse this, those digits go beyond religious or mathematical ideas and function as a bridge between the physical, mental, and spiritual dimensions. The view of Tesla and other visionary inventors can then be seen as a reminder that science still has gaps when it comes to explaining phenomena related to vibration, consciousness, and human potential. The idea that sound can affect physiology and the psyche has been getting more traction in fields like music therapy and neuroscience. Researchers such as Oliver Sacks, in books like Musicophilia, have documented cases in which patients showed remarkable improvements in motor and cognitive functions through music. Meanwhile, Dr. Masaru Emoto became famous for photographing water crystals exposed to different sounds and emotional inputs. Even though his methods are controversial, many people saw his work as a sign that water might record the vibration present in words, prayers, or musical frequencies, changing its crystalline structure. If water, which makes up around 70% of the human body, actually reacts to specific sounds, that strengthens the theory that music is not just a form of entertainment. In the field of music therapy, professionals have reported that lower frequencies can induce relaxation, while higher tones stimulate brain activity. On top of that, rhythmic sounds like drum beats have long been linked to shifting states of consciousness in shamanic rituals across different ancient cultures. Although the academic community may see these connections with caution, they support the notion that musical frequencies modulate hormones, neurotransmitters, and even brainwave patterns such as alpha, beta, theta, and delta states. At this point, the conversation about tuning in 432 Hz versus 440 Hz comes into play. Fans of 432 Hz say this frequency resonates more naturally with the human body and with the planet's pulse. Some even connect it with the Schumann resonance, which hovers near 7.83 Hz, suggesting that this is the Earth's electromagnetic heartbeat. Critics of the 432 Hz idea, however, note that calling it a natural tuning is not unanimously accepted, mainly because musical scales have changed a lot throughout history. Even so, musicians who adopt 432 Hz often report a more comfortable listening experience and a greater sense of consonance. In comparison, 440 Hz, ratified as an international standard in the 20th century, can feel slightly sharper. A few specialists in vibrational biology, like Dr. Bruce Lipton, argue that cells respond to energetic signals, which include sound frequencies. In works dedicated to epigenetics, the claim is made that the environment, including sounds, can switch certain genes on or off, influencing our overall health. Although this theory is considered innovative and not yet confirmed through large-scale research, it opens the door to new lines of study that attempt to link music, emotional states, and cell rejuvenation. On the other hand, some people claim that powerful groups mandated the 440 Hz standard as part of a wider plan of cultural manipulation. Books and articles critical of that alleged plot say that keeping populations tuned to unaligned frequencies adds to anxiety levels and a sense of vague unease. Many other scholars dismiss that idea as a conspiracy theory, arguing that the choice of 440 Hz came about for historical and practical reasons, involving European orchestral norms and the goal of unifying tuning for radio broadcasts and music recordings. In the end, this debate goes beyond whether one tuning standard is better than another and centers on the realization that sounds, rhythms, and vibrations shape the human experience in direct or indirect ways. This fact matters not only to musicians and therapists, but to anyone curious about how our soundscape influences our mood, productivity, and spiritual search. If in the end, everything is vibration, as Hermetic traditions have long taught, the real question is whether choosing certain frequencies can actually lift up or diminish our quality of life. Interest in water as a medium for vibration is not limited to casual experiments. Some chemists and physicists, while skeptical of specific approaches, admit that H2O molecules have unique traits, sometimes forming network structures that allow them to carry subtle information. One promising area still being explored is the study of water memory. Mainstream science largely disputes the durability of such memories. Still, there are papers, some appearing in mid-level scientific journals, that indicate certain molecular rearrangements might persist after interaction with certain substances or vibrations. The most famous case on this topic involves Jacques Benveniste, a French immunologist who, in 1988, published results suggesting that highly diluted solutions, so watered down that they theoretically no longer contained any molecules of the original solute, could still trigger biological effects. This claim went head-to-head with standard chemical methods and stirred up huge controversy in academic circles. Efforts to reproduce or refute Benveniste's experiments did not lead to a clear consensus. Regardless of the outcome, it all shows how challenging it is to understand water as a potential carrier of vibrational information. Many ancestral cultures already treated water with reverence, using it in purification and healing rituals. In some indigenous ceremonies, for example, specific songs are sung near rivers, lakes, or bowls of water because they believe the liquid will absorb the moment's energy and intention. In Eastern traditions like Japan, there is the practice of misogi, a purification rite in which running water is said to wash away negative energies. It has parallels with Christian baptism, symbolizing renewal and belonging to a new spiritual life. Even if only symbolic, such customs reflect the idea that water is not a lifeless element, but an avenue between the physical and the subtle. This line of thinking becomes even more relevant when you acknowledge how important hydration is for your body's function. Many holistic therapies recommend blessing your water before drinking it, believing that positive vibes can be imprinted on the liquid. Western science often classifies these acts as placebos, but advocates argue that the resulting sense of well-being proves something real is happening. Simply paying mindful and intentional attention to water can change physiological stress markers, such as cortisol levels. Even if the root of the effect is not yet fully understood, it seems reasonable to think that a conscious focus on water might enhance feelings of calm and grounding. Additionally, some researchers connect water memory to the conversation about healing frequencies like 528 Hz or 432 Hz. The claim is that when water is exposed to these sounds, its molecular structures become more organized, helping the body process it more effectively. Although these ideas are awaiting rigorous verification, anecdotal reports already suggest people feel more energetic when drinking water charged with specific frequencies. We do know for sure that factors like pH, mineral content, and chemical purity affect water quality, but that does not stop new studies from trying to connect physical and chemical properties with presumed vibrational patterns. When you combine water with the focus on the numbers 3, 6, and 9, the story gets even more elaborate. Groups exist that practice chanting these numbers or writing them on water containers, believing that it promotes beneficial outcomes. From a skeptical viewpoint, this might look like superstition. Yet for those who take an integrated science and spirituality approach, there is room to interpret water as a mirror, reflecting participants' numerical intention. In that sense, you can see water as a crystalline liquid conductor for the vibrations that permeate our reality. The web of concepts linking sound frequencies, sacred numbers, and water does not remain abstract. It increasingly affects how some people deal with health, spirituality, and even their consumption choices. While the classic biomedical model says illness comes from chemical and biological imbalances, complementary fields also factor in energetic aspects, suggesting that being in tune with certain frequencies might help in healing processes. In music therapy, for instance, professionals have seen success using particular tones or guiding patients to make specific sounds to reduce anxiety, depression, and even chronic pain. These methods are not meant to replace medical treatments, but are seen more and more as partners in holistic care. On the social level, there is an ongoing debate about whether standardizing music at 440 Hz does or does not fit the interests of large organizations and corporations. Some critical theorists ask why, if tuning at 432 Hz or 528 Hz indeed encourages more balanced emotional states, it is barely promoted in mainstream media or big commercial productions. Others argue that popular music is shaped by aesthetics, cultural influences, and market demands, not only by tuning standards. It might be far-fetched to assume that an evil agenda is behind the choice of 440 Hz, yet many people believe that the push for global unity and commercial profit may leave out subtler or less punchy sounds. Regarding water, the practical consequences appear in how people use and respect this essential element. Spiritual groups promote daily rituals of consecrating drinking water, where a person visualizes positive intentions before consuming it. Some alternative therapies suggest placing water by speakers set to 432 Hz, 528 Hz, or other frequencies believed to be helpful in the hope of producing improvements in health. Even if mainstream science is skeptical, there is obvious public interest in these methods, which offer a more holistic lens on life. When it comes to public policy, the possibility that water might have memory and that certain frequencies might influence it prompts debates over water quality and contamination by chemicals. Environmental activists argue that pollution is not just about physical toxins, but could also be a kind of vibrational pollution. Although these claims are far from confirmed, they do underline how vital it is to protect water sources and to reconsider our use of harmful products. A community that views water as holy and alive is more likely to safeguard natural resources, practice good sanitation, and push for environmental education. In the corporate world, there are reports that some tech and innovation companies have started investing in bioacoustic projects aimed at improving employee well-being by controlling ambient sounds. They acknowledge that seemingly small environmental factors can impact concentration, creativity, and stress levels. This shows that thinking about frequencies and vibrations is not confined to mysticism, but also influences modern management practices and the pursuit of better work-life quality. Even though the results are still preliminary, the idea of evaluating how sound frequencies and water quality shape our personal and professional lives is beginning to leave its mark on workplace culture in some parts of the world. For centuries, science, religion, and philosophy stood as separate fields that rarely had productive exchanges. Today, however, we see a movement of convergence in which once mystical topics get a fresh look through scientific eyes. At the same time, purely rational concepts are revisited in light of quantum discoveries that highlight the significance of the observer. The intersection of sacred numbers, sound frequencies, and water memory illustrates this shift, pushing us to think bigger about humanity's place in the cosmos. Some modern authors, including Greg Braden, propose that the magnetic field of the human heart and the Earth's resonance line up when people experience strong emotional coherence. In works like Awakening to Zero Point and The Divine Matrix, he argues that feelings of compassion or genuine love produce more structured brain and heart frequencies, which can alter how we experience reality. From that angle, the idea that everything is vibration becomes practical. Words, thoughts, and emotions would leave tangible marks on the body and, by extension, on collective experience. Even though it is too early for definitive conclusions, these studies mesh with the perspective that if water makes up most of our bodies and our planet, it might mirror whatever energies are most common in our environment. It has never been a secret that well-chosen music or chanting can improve well-being. The new twist lies in trying to find deeper connections between specific frequencies, like 432 Hz or 528 Hz, and the numbers that many see as the universe's structural anchors. This takes us back to 3, 6, and 9, seen as signatures of a grand creative plan. Although there is no absolutely firm proof, a growing number of people are experimenting with these methods in real life. Guided meditations in 9-beat intervals, breathing routines split into 3 parts, or even architectural designs based on triple symmetries. It is also important to keep a balanced perspective. Many scientists argue that any study proving these phenomena should undergo rigorous protocols, like double-blind experiments checked by peers. Frequencies like those championed by certain enthusiasts may indeed have beneficial effects, but there is a risk of blowing things out of proportion based only on anecdotes or pseudoscience. History shows that major breakthroughs, such as electricity or radio waves, were initially mocked before becoming undeniably real. Possibly that is the stage we are in now, with research into sound vibrations and the memory of water, a still largely uncharted territory. Balance is key at this point. Some radical theories portray everything as a conspiracy, which can scare away those who might otherwise be interested in honest research. At the same time, flatly denying subtle phenomena just because they do not line up with current models might be just as narrow-minded. The best approach is to look for a middle road that combines open-minded empirical research with respect for ancient knowledge. After all, old traditions pass down symbols and practices that might hold profound truths, but we need to study them carefully before fitting them into a modern context. So the big question is whether humanity is on its way to rediscovering the musical language of the universe, finding harmony with vibrational patterns that foster health, balance, and cooperation. There are signs of such a shift. Indie musicians are recording in 432 Hz, therapists are testing out sonic protocols, and regular people are bringing water-based rituals back into their daily routines. Meanwhile, scientists are beginning to explore how specific frequencies might regulate electromagnetic fields and mental states. This meeting of different viewpoints might one day show there was more to the saying, "Everything is vibration," than we first realized. Ultimately, the richness of this topic goes beyond arguing whether 440 Hz is good or bad, or whether number 9 truly ends a sacred math cycle. It is about taking a deeper look at the structures, sounds, and intentions that shape existence at every moment. If water does pick up and store memories, and if humans are largely made of water, then examining the frequencies around us might be the first step to recovering our balance and reconnecting with life on a profound level. The journey through sacred mathematics, sound frequencies, and the holiness of water hints that the world is not limited to what we can immediately see or touch. We are being called to revisit ancient traditions, to look at new scientific breakthroughs from a fresh angle, and to be brave enough to question the routines we usually take for granted. While there is no final consensus, we are left with a fertile field of imagination, research, and personal exploration. Some people will try out methods based on 432 Hz, 528 Hz, or the numbers 3, 6, and 9, while others might wait for more scientific backing. Whichever route you choose, this conversation already sparks an inner change, because it invites you to notice that reality often vibrates on subtle levels, just waiting for someone to tune in and experience its full splendor. Every change begins with grasping your role as a co-creator, and the only way to connect with this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have created a set of audio tools to help you reach this higher state of awareness. To learn more and get immediate access, click the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments. It made sense to me.